Hello everyone, my name is Charlie Mulcahy, and my question is, what do I think the federal government needs to do to help struggling businesses and Americans? As we all know, we are currently in the middle of a global pandemic with what seems to be no end in sight. Cases are surging all over the country, especially here in Michigan. Because of this pandemic, the country as a whole has suffered massively economically, with U.S. job losses and unemployment hitting record numbers. Previously, when we were experiencing the first major wave of COVID cases, according to the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, they wrote that, in a data release from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the country has lost 20.6 million jobs since mid-March, resulting in an unemployment rate of 14.7%, a level not even seen since the Great Depression in the 1930s. In an October data release from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, they wrote that, in October, the unemployment rate declined by 1 percentage point to 6.9%, and the number of unemployed persons fell by 1.5 million to 11.1 million. Both measures have declined for 6 consecutive months, but are nearly twice their February levels. Although these more recent numbers are much better than they were in April, the tides have begun to negatively turn, and we are actually experiencing even more cases per day than we initially did in April and May, with Michigan beating their single-day case records numerous times. During the first massive wave of COVID, when we were experiencing record levels of unemployment, the government realized that they had to intervene, at least economically, if they weren't going to impose any lifestyle restrictions. After constant bickering in the Senate, they finally passed a pandemic unemployment assistance program, which provides up to 39 weeks of benefits to qualifying individuals who are otherwise able to work and available for work within the meaning of applicable state law, except that they are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable or unavailable to work due to COVID-19 related reasons, as defined in the CARES Act. In the state of Michigan, this PUA program allowed for an individual to make $160 a week from unemployment, plus an additional $600 a week from the PUA itself. However, this system was very flawed because as cases began to decrease in the state, it became required to search for employment and return to employment if possible, meaning that many people were forced to return to the workforce in unsafe conditions because COVID had not been completely eradicated. This means that while businesses are beginning to close again under new COVID restrictions implemented, more small businesses will be forced to close and people will lose their source of income as they are forced to shelter in place once more. My solution to this problem is both an ethical solution and an economical solution. The federal government needs to impose incredibly strict lockdown measures like those seen in China and New Zealand in order to completely eradicate the virus from the country. While this is happening and people are being forced to remain at home except for mandatory grocery shopping and other essential activities, the government needs to cut every working-age American a check for $1,000 a week and implement a pause on all rent payments and mortgage payments that would potentially force someone to lose their home or their business. If we take China's economy as an example to base what ours would look like if we implemented similar measures, we can see that in their peak of COVID, their economy suffered drastically. However, according to the New York Times, from July to September, their economy has surged 4.9%, returning them back to the 6% rate of growth that they were experiencing before the pandemic, as this image of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange shows. The limitation in my ability to answer this question is that China is the primary example that we have of a country who has been able to bounce back from COVID and now has a booming economy. This is a limitation because our economy differs from China, so in using them as a model, I am assuming that we would have similar results. However, I believe that these assumptions are correct because the current state of the country in going from lockdown to open to lockdown cannot possibly result in a stable economy. I also understand that this proposed solution could be limited by the economic principle of price stability. However, I believe that inflation is a necessary risk in order to focus on the two other principles, economic growth and full employment. If small businesses are forced to close and major corporations are forced to downsize, then the unemployment rate will continue to skyrocket, and if businesses are struggling, then our economy will fail to grow. If we ever want to return to the growth that we were experiencing pre-pandemic, there has to be a strict lockdown, as well as support from the federal government financially, in order to stop the bleeding that we are experiencing economically. Here are my sources, and thank you for watching.